Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning.
We're learning Mishnah Pesachim, Perek Beis, Chapter 2, Mishnah Gimel, Mishnah 3. Okay. Nachri shehelva es Yisrael al chametzai. If a non-Jew lent money to a Jew over and relying on the Jew's chametz as security. So here's the case. The guy is lending money to the Jew. And the deal is that the Jew is going to pay back the non-Jew after Pesach. That's the deal. Now, the guy wants security. So the Jew says, okay, here's my my case of cereal. Okay, that's the security. And understandably, that's chametz, right? So the non-Jew is lending money to the Jew, relying on the Jew's chametz as security. Now, it's important also to know for this case is that the deal is that if the borrower, the Jew, does not pay back the non-Jew in time after Pesach, that this security becomes the non-Jew's retroactively.
Try that on me again.
The deal is that if after Pesach, the Jew does not pay back the non-Jew on time, this security, this chametz, that security, retroactively, meaning from now, becomes the guy's. It doesn't become the guy's after Pesach. It becomes the guy's from right now before Pesach. When the loan is done and all the details are done, they make up that if by the time after Pesach that I'm supposed to pay you, I don't pay you, this chametz, this security will become yours from now, meaning from before Pesach. Now, so the Mishnah, in that case, Achar HaPesach, after Pesach, and the Jew does not pay back the non-Jew when he's supposed to, and now we say it belongs to the non-Jew, mutar bana, you let to have benefit from it. It is not chametz shavalav Pesach. It's not what we learned yesterday about chametz that was owned by a Jew over Pesach, that we say that chametz is asur b'hana, that is for them to have benefit from. Why? Because it worked out that because the Jew did not pay the non-Jew on time, so the chametz that was left as security became the non-Jews from before Pesach. So it was not chametz owned by a Jew over Pesach. It was chametz that belonged to the non-Jew over Pesach. That's what we read. That's what we realize now. Retroactively, we realize that it belonged to the guy. So therefore, this chametz is considered permissible to have benefit from. If the guy now wants to sell it to another Jew, he can do that. Now, the Bartanura points out, or the Mefarshim point out, commentaries point out that there's a very important condition that has to be met here. And that is that this security, that with this Jew who left chametz as the security for the loan that he took from the non-Jew, that chametz, where is it over Pesach? Whose domain, in whose house is it? The answer is it cannot be in the Jew's house. It already has to be in the non-Jew's house. And the reason is because if this chametz, which is security for the loan that he took from the non-Jew, is in the Jew's possession, then let's say this security gets lost. Something happens to it. The Jew has to replace it. As long as the Jew is responsible for this chametz, even if it comes out that it belonged to the non-Jew, but as long as he's responsible for it, then it's considered like it's his. And therefore, it would be considered chametz shavalav Pesach. And therefore, it has to be that this security was left by the guy. And therefore, the Jew has no responsibility for the security. And therefore, it comes out that it retroactively belonged to the non-Jew. The Jew had no responsibility and therefore no level of ownership in it. And therefore, it is permissible after Pesach. Now, next case. The Yisrael shehilva es hanachri al chametzai. And let's say the case is that the lender is the Jew who is lending to the non-Jew, and the security that the non-Jew is leaving is chametz. It's his chametz, right? It's his case of cereal. that he's now leaving for the security. But it's the same idea. It's the same deal. You had the deal here of this loan that the Jew is lending the money to the non-Jew. The deal is that you got to pay me back after Pesach. And if you didn't pay me back after Pesach, retroactively, the chametz was mine. Which would mean, right? Which would mean that who owned the chametz over Pesach? The Jew. And therefore, the Mishnah says, Achara Pesach, in that case, after Pesach, Aser Bana, it's forbidden to have benefit. Because it comes out that, again, if the guy pays, it's not, if the guy pays, it's not a problem, right? The security only becomes the lenders if the borrower doesn't pay. But again, talking about where the borrower did not pay after Pesach in time, and retroactively, therefore, the chametz became the Jews from the beginning, even from before Pesach. That means it belonged to him over Pesach, and it's chametz shabbat Pesach. It is forbidden to have benefit from. Now, here too, it is important to have the same condition that we said before, which is that this chametz that the non-Jew is leaving as security has to be in the possession of the Jew. Why? Not because of responsibility issues, but because of the following. Even if we make up the retroactively, this security should become mine. But how does it become mine? How does it become the Jews? How does he acquire it? With what? What way did he acquire it? You can make up anything you want. You could say, retroactively, it's yours. But it's not going to happen unless there's some kind of a halachic acquisition, a kinyan that's done. So what's going to be the kinyan here? Now, if you want to say, okay, the chametz was left in the non-Jew's house, and we say that the money, meaning let's say the loan money, right? The loan money, maybe that was the acquisition, meaning the Jew lent the non-Jew money, right? And they make up, if it comes out that you don't pay me after Pesach on time, retroactively, this will become mine. How? Through the money that was lent. Meaning this money will either be a loan, or it could be the money by which I acquire that security retroactively. Could that work? The answer is no, it can't work. Because the halacha is that money, when it comes to buying objects, money cannot be used as a kinyan, as an act of acquisition on movable things. That's the halacha. The halacha is a Jew cannot acquire, he cannot make a kinyan, he cannot acquire a movable object just by giving money. You can marry a woman by giving her money. You can acquire land by giving money, but you cannot acquire movable objects by giving money.
And that's the deal.
That's the din. So therefore, we're still stuck here. In what way, if the chametz is still in the guy's and the non-Jew's house, how now retroactively could the Jew acquire it? The answer is, therefore, that where this chametz was left? In the Jew's house. That's where it was left. And therefore, you know how retroactively the Jew acquires it? Because it's in his domain, it's in his rishutz, it's in his chutzner, it's in his courtyard. A person's property has the ability to acquire something for you. Therefore, if the chametz was in the Jew's house of a Pesach, then if it comes out that the non-Jew didn't pay him, and retroactively it can become the Jew's because it's sitting in his domain, and being in his domain, he cannot take possession of it. So in both cases, it has to be that the chametz is in the lender's domain of a Pesach. New halacha, new part of the Mishnah now, unrelated. Chametz shnaf olav mapelas. A ruin collapsed over chametz. You had your box of cereal in a very shaky house, and it collapsed on the chametz. Okay, collapsed on the chametz. This was your area.
Destroy it.
Right, covered it up. It's you. If you want to go in and dig it out, you can dig it out. But you've got this pile of rubble on top of the chametz. Harehu k'mavoyer. It's like it's been destroyed. It's like it's been eliminated. If you can only get to something with difficulty, it's considered like it's gone. That's the halacha. if you want to deal with this in a practical case, if there's chametz under your stove on Pesach, you're not obligated to move your stove out to clean it out from under. The ladies typically do it, but they're not obligated because it's not like you can just easily pull the stove out. And typically you don't have a reason to pull the stove out. Now, if you know that for some reason over Pesach, you're going to have to move that stove out, then you're going to have to move the stove for Pesach and get rid of the chametz under there because now it's going to be available. But as long as it's covered in a way that it's not available to you, it's considered like it's gone. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is qualifying this halacha. When do we say that if it's covered over and you cannot, easily take it out, that it's considered like it's gone? That is as long as a dog cannot search for it. That means that if the dog can still smell it, and if he smells it, he's going to start digging it out, then you have a problem. Because then there's a chance that it's going to become, it's going to be revealed, and it's going to come out that on Pesach, there's chametz in your domain. And if you don't get rid of that, ASAP, right, with a lot of exclamation points after it, you're going to be transgressing possessing chametz. So therefore, in that situation, if it's not covered up by enough rubble that the dog could smell it and would start digging it out on his own, you got to dig it out before Pesach so that it doesn't happen. But if it's already covered by enough rubble that the dog would not be able to sniff it out and therefore not go searching for it, then it's considered gone. How much rubble has to be on top of it to be considered that the dog would not be able to sniff it out? The answer is there has to be at least 3 tfachim. The chametz has to be at least 3 tfachim below the surface. It's got to be covered by at least 3 tfachim of rubble. Now, the halacha is that even in a case where it would be covered by enough rubble or whatever it's covered over, it's not going to come out. The chachamim still said that you have to nullify it. You have to mevatel it. It's not the same thing like if you threw it into a fire and it was gone. Because of the fact that it could happen that if, let's say, this rubble is removed, that now it'll end up in your domain. The Chachamim said you have to at least cover your bases from a Torah point and nullify it. By nullifying it, by saying it's like dust of the earth, from the Torah point, you don't have it anymore. In a situation where, like in the case where the dog could sniff it out, where it could get uncovered, nullifying doesn't help. Because that's another halach we have on Pesach that the sages said that it's not enough to nullify something if it's going to still be around, because you may come to eat it. So therefore, the situation where the dog could sniff it out and therefore uncover it, nullifying it wouldn't be enough. And therefore, in the case where the dog could sniff it out and would uncover it, you're obligated to have to uncover it before Pesach and get rid of it. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.
That's a tough one.
You just were recorded for